What is going on everyone, Nostalgia925 coming at you with another special explaining Digimon episode. In this video we are quickly going to take a break to all the mythological conversation or the Digimon comparison video or simply the explaining Digivolution Line series. Today we are going to take a look at this very old game I used to play a lot in company of my brothers and friends. I'm talking about Digimon Rumble Arena on the PS1. A game I have always liked for many reasons. I always loved Digimon. For starters, it was fun, the animation were great, and it introduced me to other Digimon I would have never known about. The truth is, it is thanks to this game that I first saw Impmon, Guilmon, Terriermon, and more of those. In this video, as I am showing you in this picture, I made a tier list of the different characters in the game. I wanted to know how great they were. Now I did exclude Black Wargreymon and Imperial Dramon Paladin mode as they are simply nothing more than the mega leveled variant of two Digimon that we are already discussing, so I thought it would only make sense that I did not discuss them as they will be discussed anyway. KHH wanted an explanation of the tier list. Well, a tier list is nothing more than just a list of playable characters subjectively ranked by their respective viability in high level competitive settings. So we are simply going to imagine ourselves that people want to compete by playing this game. The question is which character would give you the right chances to win a tournament? Which Digimon will give you the best chances to be named the Digimon Rumble Arena champion? Maybe a little bit like how people are being named Smash Bros. Champions. A game that in design, by the way, is really similar to Digimon Rumble Arena. Now here is an interesting comment of Pixelation who said the following: I do feel that tier lists in some way will probably change up slightly due to the different stages throughout the game. Unlike Smash Bros, if I recall, there really isn't a definitive battlefield or final destination type stage that could allow us to find a definitive tier list. If you're going to say Reapermon's Den as the final destination counterpart, I could see that. Though for a battlefield, I'm not exactly sure on what that would be. Many of the stages have hazards with them that Digimon could easily use against their opponent. I guess it really depends on the type of player who uses said character. Sorry for the long-winded dialogue in advance. Don't apologize, my good friend. An interesting and useful comment is permitted to be long. And I have to say that you made a very interesting point. That is why what we will do first is discuss briefly the arenas in the game, and after it we'll go straight for the characters. The Sanctuary in the Sky is an arena that has a steady floor, and there are about 4 cubes at the sides, maybe 5, that at some given point can release electric currents, which will take a good chunk of damage if the player were to hit that. Also on the floor there are certain little platforms that will drop once you stand too long on it. It's an arena where I would say you will not have to heavily depend on mobility of your character. You can do well with basically all Digimon. Burning Volcano is an arena that is rather simple, steady platform, nothing to really worry unless you get near the lava underneath. You will quickly find that there are many volcanic activities which will make you lose a lot of health if you are not careful enough. Your character will not have to heavily depend on mobility. In this arena, every character, may it be a projectile heavy character or a close range combatant, all should be able to get the upper hand depending on the skills of the player. The Dangerous Forest is an arena that can be in the advantage for projectile heavy characters and characters with an above average mobility. There are rolling boulders coming from the back of the arena. Because of it, the arena will ask the players to find quick maneuvers in order to get their partner Digimon to a safer spot. Characters with projectiles will be able to hit or at least annoy the opponent in a stage like this one, where you are fighting on basically equal floors. On top of that, you can hit those rolling boulders with projectiles, making them roll at the other side of the screen, and this, maybe with luck, might hit your opponent. With long-range projectiles you will be able to influence the opponent's movement and thus, hopefully, force them to make mistakes and, for example, make them drop near one of those boulders to make them lose health. Freezy Arctic is an arena that will give a solid advantage to those Digimon that have a beyond average maneuverability, as the floor is completely frozen. You will easily lose your grip at the edges of the arena, and once you fall in those frozen lakes you will lose health and it's going to be much difficult to jump back to the floor. Also, Digimon with projectiles can have slightly more chances of winning because you'd be able to have more control on your opponent's movement. Crazy Battlefield is an arena where everyone can win, I would say. Aside of the fact that the arena can change positioning at every random moment, there are no real obstacles. It won't be that much of a challenge to get near your opponent. I could even say that those close-range combatants would have more chances at winning because projectiles will most of the time leave you vulnerable. but then again, it depends on what sort of projectile we're talking about. Mecha Factory is an arena that would be very good to those characters with great mobility. There is a gate underneath. Well, I always saw it as a furnace, but anyway, there is a gate down below that will open and the entire stage will adapt to let things get swallowed by the giant opening. When you have the ability to do more than just a double jump, you should be able to get yourself to safer spots. And with projectiles, you might be able to hit your opponent from afar. A perfect strategy when you know that your opponent can only stay on one spot at the moment the giant opening is swallowing everything. To finish, there is Reapermon's Den, a stage with no traps, no pits, the perfect place for dogfights. Normally those Digimon good in close range should be able to get the upper hand. That is maybe the reason why Reapermon was such a badass. But in the end it will all depend on the skills you will display. Now let us start with the bottom tier, those characters that I believe will give you the least chances of winning. Doesn't matter the stage. Now don't forget, a tier list is subjective, this is my opinion. You might not always agree, but please, if you feel like I'm wrong with something, let us discuss it in a proper, adorable way in the comment section. Wormmon, Gatomon and Veemon to me are the three characters that I find would give you few chances to win against any of the above characters. Let me start with Wormmon. Wormmon to me should be perhaps the weakest character in the game, even though in the end it all depends on how the player will use the character. Its normal attacks are quite weak, no range, its sticky net projectile doesn't cover half of the screen and it doesn't do much damage. Now, I must admit that some characters also have short range projectiles that do not cover the entire screen, but still there is a big difference to this one here. The fact that Wormmon doesn't really have long range projectiles, it won't really be able to force the opponent to make mistakes in certain stages, so it wouldn't be able to benefit from those. Think for example of the Freezy Arctic arena. Wormmon will rather attract other Digimon to fight in close range, and Wormmon will be the one to do the hard work in order to be able to hit the opponent, because Wormmon quite frankly is not that good in close range. Now I do want to say that Wormmon can still be very lethal when used properly. There are two aspects to it that can potentially make it a real menace. Its Silk Thread attack is one of those aspects. It gives Wormmon a mean to maneuver mid-air. That would be very good in stages like the Mecha Factory, where the arena can quickly become your enemy. Its Silk Thread attack is perhaps its most reliable attack, as it can be used in a run and attack strategy. Another great aspect according to the game's manual, Wormmon belongs to the Digimon that digivolve way quicker to its next form in comparison to others. As a Stingmon, it does have way more tools to make a difference, and Stingmon, to be honest, is a very reliable character. Stingmon as a character I think could be placed at B tier, maybe even A tier. It has a fast, long-range projectile which can be spammed, and I've always said that avoiding projectiles is like a mental game. It can make the opponent lose his or her concentration, and the more it goes like that, the more the projectile user will gain an advantage in combat. Stingmon's normal obviously have better range. Its Spiking Strike attack is very useful, it's fast and can be used in mid-air. The only problem is that when you use it in the air, it will go downwards in a diagonal fashion. This might make it risky depending on your position in certain arenas. You'd have more chances to miss a platform and fall in a pit, so it's a useful attack and yet quite risky, but then again, as we say, a blade cuts both sides. Stingmon does have one of the best final attacks in the game. It traps the opponent and drains their life. Because the attack covers a good area, I would say that it is definitely among the best final attacks in the game, very reliable. Gatomon is the next C tier character because it also doesn't have much tools that are very reliable in combat. It doesn't have long range projectiles and rather weak normals. Now that I think of it, Gatomon might be a weaker character than Wormmon because there are quite a few risks when using its attacks. For example, its Lightning Pole attack makes it run towards a certain direction, and if it hits the opponent successfully, it will perform a combo. I don't find it very reliable. In fact, the running alone is already putting the Digimon in a very vulnerable position. It leaves it open to all sorts of attacks, and worse, final attacks. The game's manual did say that Gatomon has great jumps and is fast. That is definitely an important factor, but still, I think Gatomon has not enough tools to really have the best chances in combat. As a Magnadramon, the only reliable attack would be its Fire Tornado, as it covers the entire screen and it does cover a bigger area than for example the little projectile of Stingmon. However, its Hermit Fog attack is rather unreliable. It is a bit slow and does not take a lot of space, so it is not very reliable, and on top of that, Magnadramon's final attack has perhaps the most chances of missing, so Gatomon to me is definitely C tier. Last C tier would be Veemon. Now, to be honest, I don't find Veemon to be necessarily better than Gatomon or Wormmon. I see Veemon as a kind of Digimon that will force the player to calculate every move, every obstacle in the arena, and time every attack, as Veemon doesn't have any projectile. It does have an above average damage, but no projectiles. Its V-Punch is not immediately the most reliable attack. The best option is the V-Headbutt, which by the way can also be activated mid-air. A very fast attack with good damage. Veemon to me is only C tier because I believe that the player will really have to be patient and be flexible with different tactics. Otherwise we could easily put Veemon at B tier, maybe even A tier. But then we have its Digivolution, Imperialdramon, a Digimon that to me is also very risky to use. Its Positron Laser is a good one, very fast, goes full screen. Its Splendor Blade attack, however, well, it can be very useful like Stingmon's Spiking Strike. When you use the Splendor Blade in certain spots, it might result in you falling off a cliff and losing health. Think for example of arenas like the Sky Temple or underneath the Volcano Arena. Very risky. And Imperialdramon's final attack is also very unreliable. Once activated, it will perform a combo, and it doesn't even matter if it hits the opponent or not, it will keep on doing that same combo, which means that Imperialdramon might be left vulnerable for at least 3 to 4 seconds, and those little seconds might mean a lot in a match. Let us go to the B tier. Please guys, remember that everything I'm saying here is subjective. Let us remain sane and respectful towards one another. It's not because one is placed B tier that it won't be able to defeat one who is S tier, okay? That is not my point. In B tier, I placed Guilmon and Patamon. Both Digimon are not necessarily better than those in the C tier, but I thought that Guilmon and Patamon alone already have very reliable attacks, and their Mega Digivolution are just as reliable. It's just that those in the C tier did have quite a few risks even though they went to their Mega leveled forms, so I think those in B tier are quite more reliable in comparison to those in C tier. Guilmon is a very strong Digimon, a heavy hitter for a rookie. It has a long range projectile and its Rock Breaker attack is not only fierce, but has also great mobility, so Guilmon can move mid-air. Its Mega level, Gallantmon, is as reliable if not more reliable despite not having projectiles. Its attack, Royal Joust, is an attack of 2 hits where it dashes with its shield first and will afterwards hit the opponent with its lance. If I'm not mistaken, the attack has some armor properties. Its Spiral Saver really is a saver, as it can be used 2 times mid-air, allowing the user to have more air confidence. Its final attack, the Elysion Blaster, is a beam that goes full screen and activates really quick and takes a good chunk of damage, so Gallantmon is a good one, a very reliable character. Patamon has also reliable moves. The Boom Bubble does not take that much damage, but I would say that the space it takes does make up for the lack of damage. On top of that, the attack goes full screen, meaning that you might force the opponent to make mistakes in the arena. Its slamming attack is also very good, as it makes Patamon dash towards the opponent to perform a combo once the attack landed successfully. Its Mega level, Seraphimon, is a projectile heavy character. It has 2 projectiles, one that goes horizontally through the screen and one that can go upwards in a diagonal fashion or downwards in a diagonal fashion. Its final attack does have more than enough chances to miss or to fail to activate, but still it has more chances than Gatomon's Mega form. In the meanwhile, Seraphimon with its projectile would make some small chip damage that in the end might decide the outcome of the game. Now among the A tier, I placed 4 Digimon, Gabumon, Agumon, Impmon and Rapermon. I can imagine that some of you might be surprised with Rapermon's position, but hear me out. I see those in A tier as the Digimon that have slightly more or better tools than those in B tier. Let me start with Agumon to explain my point. The reason why I placed Agumon so high is not because of Agumon itself. The Digimon actually only has one very reliable move, and that is the Pepper Breath. Its claw attack will make it do 3 consecutive attacks that can easily put Agumon at risk if it is near a cliff. So when it comes to Agumon as a character, I would say that Guilmon and maybe even Wormmon, Gatomon and Veemon might have more chances of winning a dogfight. The big threat about Agumon is not Agumon, but it is when it digivolves to Wargreymon. The Digimon to me is easily S tier because its attacks are extremely powerful and deadly. For example, its Mega Claw. It launches 2 mid to long range projectiles that covers big portions of the screen. You can't even hope to jump over it. On top of that, because Wargreymon launches 2 consecutive attacks, it will first nullify the opponent's projectile, and the second hit will at least take some chip damage. So imagine what you can do with a War Greymon in a stage like the Freezy Arctic, a stage where the opponent has to move a lot in order to not fall over. You can control huge portions of the match just with that attack alone. On top of that, War Greymon has its Great Tornado attack, which can be used 2 times mid-air and can actually be used 4 times if you take off the ground with that attack. With this attack, you can maneuver mid-air and either get more safely to your opponent, and if it were to hit, it also takes a lot of damage. This attack in my eyes is the best move when it comes to giving the character a good maneuverability mid-air. To finish, War Greymon also has the Terra Force, an attack that goes diagonally down, but is perhaps the biggest projectile. I think it is the biggest projectile in the game, so you have more than enough chances to hit with it. On top of that, for such a huge projectile, it is quite fast to activate and takes enormous damage. The boost that Agumon got in becoming a War Greymon, to be honest, I might even have placed Agumon S tier. Gabumon is another A tier character that I think is in a good position. It has long range projectiles and a horn attack that works as a great anti-air. If I'm not mistaken, this attack can also be used mid-air. The game manual also says that it digivolves rather quick, which is also a good thing. Now, as a Metal Garurumon, I would still place the Digimon at an A tier level. I don't have reasons to believe that Metal Garurumon has more chances in a fight against War Greymon. Metal Garurumon is a projectile heavy character, doesn't really have close range attacks aside of its normals. Its projectiles are very good though, I would even say better than Seraphimon's. Its Metal Wolf Claw is a beam that covers the entire screen and can be used mid-air. The Garuru Tomahawk is a projectile that also travels full screen but is rather slow despite the high damage. Its final attack, the G Cross Freezer, unfortunately is not that good in my eye. Sure, it does have homing missiles, but they don't take that much damage unless you were to feel the attack in point blank range. And even still, the final attack to me is not as good as, for example, Stingmon's final attack. I placed Impmon A tier because the Digimon has perhaps the fastest projectile among the rookie, and its speed is sometimes even higher than those mega level Digimon. And that alone is making the Digimon among the best rookie level beings. In the top 3, I would put Impmon at the 3rd place among the rookies. Fast projectiles, and it can summon ice crystals, which can also protect it from incoming attacks. A very impressive Digimon, to be honest. On top of that, when Impmon grabs you, it will leave the opponent quite vulnerable, because the opponent will be under a certain trance, hypnosis I would say. So Impmon has a great many tools, and its mega level Beelzemon is about as good. I won't necessarily say that Beelzemon is better than Impmon, but still they are both good. So no, I don't think I can place them S tier. I think A tier does fit them much better. Beelzemon has great full screen projectiles, its Darkness Claw is also a good one, it will launch the opponent. Beelzemon has also a special grab which, if I'm not mistaken, leaves the opponent vulnerable to almost any attacks. I think that after this grab, you might immediately perform your final attack. So the tools Beelzemon has along with its final attack, the Digimon is certainly a very reliable character. I think A tier does fit the Digimon much better. I also see Reapermon as an A tier Digimon. I know it might be a shock to some of you because Reapermon did frustrate many people, but know that Reapermon in my eyes is only very dangerous in those arenas without too many pits. When it uses its Grim Slasher, it is a combo that cannot be cancelled into anything. It cannot be stopped, meaning that the attack will only end at the moment the combo ends. If you have pits here and there, like for example the Sky Temple, using the Grim Slasher might be very risky because you'd have the possibility to drop. Its Flame attack on the other hand does have great durability and a lot of damage. That would be its most reliable attack, even though the Flame does not cover huge parts of the screen. Its Flame Tornado is actually also a very good final attack, definitely among the best finals in the game, especially with that vacuum effect. I have to place Reapermon A tier because the Digimon simply has the biggest damage in the game. You can get easily and quickly stunned because of this Digimon. But unfortunately Reapermon is a character that really is very dependent on the stage it will move. Now to finish, let us check the God tier, S tier. To me you have Renamon, Terriermon and Omnimon. They are the Digimon that you can use in every stage and still have the best chances at winning in my eyes. On top of that, to me, the 2 rookies you have there are so good that there was actually no real need to make them Digivolve. In fact, making them Digivolve might even reduce some of your chances. Let me start with Renamon. Now Renamon as a rookie has, I would say, the best tools in the game. Its Diamond Storm attack is one that takes a lot depending on how big the opponent is. And almost all Mega level Digimon in the game are big enough to take all those diamonds, meaning that Renamon doesn't even necessarily need to Digivolve into Sakuyamon to raise the chances of winning. Renamon will hit harder once the opponent is in its Mega leveled form. On top of that, the Diamond Storm, not only does it take a lot of space, it can be launched forward, down diagonally, or up diagonally. So there are a lot of options. Plus they go full screen, the durability of the attack is also more than just great, so this attack alone is already devastating. No rookie level can top this attack. On top of that, Renamon doesn't necessarily have ways to move mid-air, okay, but it has an attack called Kohenkyo, where it switches spots with the opponent. That can lead to very interesting strategies. Take for example the Arctic Arena. At some point there is this huge ice platform that drops on the icy water and travels to the end of the screen. You can simply go up there with your Renamon and wait till it reaches the end and use Renamon's attack to switch places, and that alone will put your opponent in a position where it might even be forced to take damage. So Renamon is so good that in my eyes it is even stronger than its Mega leveled Sakuyamon. This Digimon is also very projectile heavy, the attacks are not that good than for example Metal Garurumon. For example the Dragon Helix, which is an attack that does cover a good part of the screen but is not traveling full screen. It is a reliable attack, I have to say that. In fact, it is the most reliable attack it has. The Fox Drive is one of the coolest innovative attacks in the game, flame foxes that you can control and make travel through the screen until they disappear, very awesome. Now if I'm not mistaken you can call back your foxes, but the attack leaves you very vulnerable. It can be a very effective attack, but it will leave you very vulnerable. If one is able to find its way around, the time that you will have to use to call back your foxes, it might already be that the opponent launched an attack. That will mean that Sakuyamon will lose health. But Sakuyamon has arguably, but still I would say perhaps the best final attack in the game. It traps the opponent in a platform and massive energy just bursts out and covers Sakuyamon in a 360-degree sphere. So Sakuyamon is definitely strong, but while I would place Sakuyamon A tier, Renamon to me is definitely S tier. Terriermon is another S tier character. You see, Terriermon has two attacks. One is a projectile that goes full screen, a decent projectile, but what in my eyes puts Terriermon at S tier would be the Terrier Tornado. Definitely the best move that can be used mid-air to give the player more maneuverability. The truth is that if Terriermon wants it, you cannot hit it. You won't be able to touch it. Because the Terrier Tornado makes it travel from one place to another in a very fast way, and I believe that the attack can be used 2 times in the air. So Terriermon will cause a lot of frustration among players. The Digimon also has great normals with those long ears it has, and just with those assets, Terriermon can play with time, can play with damage if it means to, can force opponents to make mistakes. Terriermon along with Renamon are definitely the best rookies in the game. Now Mega Gargomon on the other hand, the Digimon is also a decent one. Its Gargo Missiles takes a lot of damage and has homing properties, even though it is quite slow. But there is a special tool it has. Mega Gargomon is the only one that has a command grab, so to face it in close range is going to be very difficult, and it has long range attacks. So Mega Gargomon is kinda crazy, and its Mega Barrage is protecting its front and back. Not necessarily among the best attacks, but certainly a very useful attack, especially for defensive purposes. And here's a comment that kind of confirms what I said. Steven Taormina wrote the following: I pretty much never digivolved Terriermon because it was so much better than Mega Gargomon. All my friends hated me using him. And that is exactly my point. Terriermon alone was enough to force your opponents to lose their concentration, make mistakes. The Digimon is hard to hit, has projectiles, great normals. Steven Taormina, your strategy makes perfect sense. To finish, there is Omnimon, and I would say the best Digimon in the game. Garuru Cannon is a good projectile, but what you should fear is Omnimon's Double Torrent. An attack that you can spam the way you like, is extremely fast, making it a broken character. With this Digimon, in every arena, you will have the best options to win, and its final attack is also one that has great success rates. Anyway, now that this is finished, let's take a look at the comments before bringing the video to an end. Majestic Butter gave us the following tier list, and I see that we have a few things in common, like Renamon and Omnimon in S tier. I'm a bit surprised with Terriermon being placed B tier, but I'm sure you have your explanation. Gatomon is definitely C tier, so that is also another thing we have in common. Knurborg 1 wrote the following: Renamon, definitely top tier. I think the Wargreymons are also very good, if not top. Definitely. Renamon, I placed it S tier for numerous reasons. Wargreymon and Black Wargreymon as a character are definitely top tier in my eyes. All of their attacks are reliable and they have great mobility. I think that the amount of work you'd have to put in order to win with Wargreymon will be quite low in comparison to most Digimon in the cast. To finish, Quartz TLS wrote the following: #BackInTime, which is a reference to the post in the NostalgiaNat5 community page. What I like about this tier list is that we did get some explanation. So in S tier, Impmon is placed for its triangle attack, which makes Billsmon inferior in comparison. Now if you mean the Badaboom projectile, then I would say yes, it is extremely fast. If you are talking about the diamond summoning, I would also say yes, because it works as a great defense and offense. I can certainly understand why Impmon would be placed S tier. Omegamon kinda broken if you spam its Grey Sword attack, Sakuramon for her unblockable attack, and Reapermon. Now I'm surprised about Galmon being placed B tier and Terrormon also being placed B tier. But again, everyone is entitled to their own list. Please write down below why you would place certain Digimon in a particular spot. That way we can all learn from it. Let us do that for all time's sake. Hey guys, this is the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I loved thinking about it, and because of it, I definitely have some plans of reviewing certain games and discuss them. I really want the world to know more about Digimon and to see that the franchise goes way deeper than you would initially have thought. There is simply so much to explore, so many theories that I have yet to cover, so many games to discuss, so many exclusive Digimon content that have a great story and that we don't even know yet. There are so many mythological inspirations that were included in the franchise. There is simply so much to talk about. That is why I'm asking you to please subscribe and join the NostalgiaNat5 community. Together, along with your dear brains, we will make sure that Digimon gets treated properly. We will make sure that Digimon gets explored like other franchises like Naruto or Pokemon that are already being explored. If you are new, know that all my Digimon videos are placed in particular playlists, so please find your way to the playlist section here in NostalgiaNat5. For now, there are 3 playlists that involve Digimon: the Digimon comparison playlist, where we compare the Digimon franchise to other franchises, the mythological conversation playlist, where we explore those mythological creatures that inspired the making of certain Digimon, and to finish, the Digimon conversation playlist, a playlist where we discuss a particular Digimon subject in order to understand the universe a bit more. Those playlists are always updated, that way you can all catch up on the newest and the oldest videos.